And thank you, Artisan, Asylum, and Ann Wright for contacting me to do this inspiration series. I'm very excited about it. A little nervous. I haven't done this before, but uh, and thank you to everybody who actually took the time to come and hear my story. Um, it's getting to where I am now is been sort of a journey. My path to woodworking was through amplified through stress from work and projects that I was working on. But going back from when I was a kid, my dad, he was a big inspiration to me. He was sort of a what I would call. I'm gonna switch to my desktop just to give you some images of my. So my dad, he worked at the city of West Miami, and growing up, he was a guy who he was sort of a jack of all trades. He loved tools. I would be around the house. I would see him building things all the time, working on his truck. Mechanic. He was plumbing, carpentry. I saw him put up additions on the house. So all of that as a kid. When I saw him, I saw tools that I didn't know what they did, but when I saw him use them, it kind of made sense to me. So those experiences, me growing up, I think it stuck with me. I know it did. Later, in high school, I had that was my first instructional wood shop, and it was interesting in that the teacher, we made a lot of cutting boards, and I remember a lot of speakers back then and some toys. So it was about a year. I think I took that, and I was also had art, studio art, and I had graphic design in high school. So I was fortunate to go to a school that that allowed me to do that. Later on, and I had always been, interested in art. My mom, even from an early age, I would drawing cartoons and spending a lot of time doing painting. I didn't have really early on, I didn't have any formal training. So I was, painting with house paint on cardboard. So, but that was, for me, I was still getting to developing my skills. So I majored in fine art for 2 years in college, and a requirement for fine art majors was that you had to take a semester of wood shop. And when I got enrolled into that class, the instructor Scott, he was very knowledgeable. He was a carpenter, but he knew all of the tools, and he was really stressing on safety. So I remember him telling us all the time, like, you got to make sure you do this because, you can get hurt in here. He kept stressing that. And, I had, definitely took his, listen to him because I love my fingers and, I want to keep them until I leave here, and I still have them. So, but that experience, it gave me some more insight into woodworking. I changed my major after that from fine art to graphic design. Well, visual communications was my major, and I graduated with a BFA degree in that. And, but I knew from that experience that I wanted to build something. At some point, I always had that urge that I see things and I wanted to take them apart visually, or, see how they were constructed. And I always thought that, man, I could do that, but at that point in time, I was probably in my 20s, so I was a whole lot of other things that I wanted to do that wasn't that. So I started a job at the City of Miami as a graphic designer. And that was, for me, I had jobs that when I got out of school, I actually had a job at Piatti Borenstein and Long, which is a design firm. It was one of the top rated design firms in Miami. And I stayed there for about a year, and then I set out freelancing. And after that, I decided, I saw this job at the city of Miami, so I decided to apply for that, and I got it. And it was a great move for me. I met a lot of people there. They're really good friends now, and it was a great place for me to work. But shortly after that, and I'll give you this path to how I got to woodworking. It's basically my mom, who had been in business forever, and she didn't like working with people. She liked running her own company. And she came to me and my younger sister and said, hey, do y'all want to start another business? And, they were opening, there was a flea market opening not far from my house. And she said, well, we can figure out what we're going to put there, but, y'all think about it. So me and my sister came back, we love music. So it was like, wow, let's open a record store, And so on the Miami, met with him, and he sort of tried to warn us that this, he didn't want to take our money, but because this business could be pretty rough. And he was a very nice guy though. But eventually we told him that we definitely wanted to open a store. So we opened a store. Everything went great. We sold a bunch of records right out of the gate, and I was really surprised. I was like, wow, we sold a lot of records on the opening day. So we went back, we did our exchange, we got all the new records, we came back, we kept doing that and over, and then and at some point, we became the largest independent record store in Florida, selling R&B, rap, gospel, and reggae. And that went on for a few years. We started billboard reporting, so that's a big step. My sister got that set up, and we were moving so much product that they couldn't ignore us. So we started reporting the billboard, which is a huge thing. So all of a sudden, all of the record companies start sending money to do local advertising and then tagging us on the end of it. We did a bunch of in-stores that we had a bunch of artists, Queen Latifah. I'm gonna share my screen again just to give you guys some more. Okay. So that's me in 1980. I was a little heavier. That's my mom and my two sisters. This is a write-up in the Miami Herald about our little record store. And this is this is literally 10 feet by 20 feet. And we're moving a ton of records. So moving forward, we did all these in-stores. This is Marlon Jackson, Michael Jackson's brother. My sisters, they were more in front of the camera than I was. I probably was taking this picture. So you'll see some more of these pictures of them. We wound up having, that's Queen Latifah with my two sisters in our shop. Oh, let me go back. So the thing that we were doing, we did an anniversary party every year, and that became huge. We had, major labels come in, send people down. We did local talent. They showcased. We showcased there at the. It was at the parties, and one of the things that we did was a calendar, and the calendar had every month. It had a different record label on it, and they featured an artist on that calendar. So my sister went out and she met with all of the record companies, and they buy space on those calendars, and that paid for the party and some other things. So it was great. We had advertising going, and we were moving a lot of records, so it was a great time. Now during that period, I had been trying to, because I'm still working my 8-hour job, my 40-hour job a week. We now have a record shop that's open from Thursday to Sunday. So all of my time after work and on the weekends is being, devoted to this. And so I don't have a whole lot of time. But from that calendar, we did a local record company, Luke Records, took out an ad, and they were happy with the ad. So I got a call maybe about 3 weeks after that, and Debbie Bennett, who was the album at Luke Records, asked me if I was Mr. Campbell wanted to talk about a project, and I had been trying to find some way to get involved with music projects with my graphic design skills. So it was perfect for me. So I went in. First album he told me it was the album. He hadn't done any R&B. This was his first time his attempt doing that, and I it was Angie Griffin, and this was in my wheelhouse, because that was something that I could do blindfolded. So this was like a song for me. So I knocked it out of the park. They loved it, and I was like really happy. It was an album, a CD, a cassette, and I think flats for in-store stuff, poster. So about a month after that, I got another call from them, and they said, "Listen, Mr. Campbell wants to talk to you again. It's another project coming in." So I went over, I sat at his desk, we were talking. He showed me some slides of pictures they had taken prior. I wasn't doing art direction. I was basically graphic design this time. So I saw the pictures. He played a couple of tracks. I was talking to him about, what I thought it should be. I was trying to convince him to change the pictures because, in my, I'm sort of obsessive compulsive about trying to get perfect. And some of these pictures they definitely needed a lot of work. And there was no Photoshop back then. So we would have to go to a Cytex machine at a printing company, and they were charging quite a bit of money just to do any kind of imaging or changing imaging. But he said, no, this is what, this is my market. Basically, this is what we want, this imperfect picture, So I took the pictures, I came back with ideas, and that first album, the second album I did was this album, Two Live Crew, As Nasty As They Want to Be. So this album, I think this set a record for the first independent rap record company. Sold 1 million, it went platinum. I forgot what the length of time, but it didn't take long. And there was a lot of controversy about this album because of freedom of speech, and because of Luke challenging Nick Navarro, who is the sheriff in Broward County, and he would get arrested for going out and performing his wasn't supposed to do. But every time he would get arrested, the record sales would go up more. And so I saw this album cover on Nightline. I think it was on the front of Time magazine. I think it was pretty much everywhere, and my name was on it. So from that, his record company grew pretty quickly after that, and he had so many artists that came in. So now I'm freelance graphic designer. I have a record shop, and I'm working a full-time job. So you can imagine that it was like very stressful. And the opportunity of doing these albums, it was like the thing that I live for, because this is for me, it was at that time, that was way more creative for me and fun than, the stuff that I was doing every day. So fast forward about a year into this, I did this album, which is H-Town. That was a huge hit. This record, some people may know what this is, Knocking the Boots. This is back in the early 90s, but this was a huge hit as well. And it just kept snowballing and snowballing. So I think I did, over that period of time from 89 to maybe 95, I did, I think about maybe 50 album covers. And when I say album covers, it's, Luke Records always did 2 versions, clean and dirty. So that meant if I was doing a cassette, a CD, a LP, and I was doing a Source magazine ad and a billboard ad, a poster, in-store flats, this is a lot of work. But I was not backing down from it. So I was burning the candle everywhere. So around 95, Luke had been in and out of court a few times, and he had been undefeated until 1995. And one of the artists that he had been working with had won a lawsuit against him, and he had to go into bankruptcy. So at the same time, our record shop, you know, the industry was changing. There was cassette singles that were being sold at, you know, stores and gas stations. So the traditional record shop was going away. You know, it was going away slowly, but we definitely noticed a difference in sales and ability for us to, you know, focus on just records. So at that point, we began to grind down on the record shop. At the same time, I took on another position at my was the superintendent of the graphics division. I took over my job, my boss's job, which meant that I was not doing any creative stuff. I was writing memos, doing budgets, employee evaluations. That was terrible. But so I was in a position where I was kind of stressed. I was, you know, I wasn't doing anything super creative, and we had shut down the record store. So I was really thinking about it. And I've been watching a bunch of Norm Abrams, This Old House episodes, and his woodworking shop. And I've seen him over and over. And I really was interested in building some of the things that I saw him make. And I think in 1995, I said that, you know, I have to do something that's not in front of the computer. I didn't want to do any more freelance. That was still there, but I just, you know, I was at that point, I was just tired of, you know, working so much. And I wanted to do something that I did not have a deadline. I did not have anybody asking me about when it was going to be ready. And I could do it at my pace, and I could make sure it was perfect as I wanted it to be. And that was woodworking. I bought my first table saw in 95, and little by little, and buying equipment to build projects. So my first thing was that I was gonna make furniture for my house, which I did. And my deal was that, you know, I like really expensive furniture. And I thought that, you know, if I can make, you know, I was going to take a look at it, I said, if I can make that, I think I can make that and buy all the tools to make it, and for less than what it actually costs. And that was my approach. It worked out really good for me. I got, you know, the furniture that I liked, and I got the tool, and I got the experience of building it. So this went on to for really from 95, you know, up until I renovated my house. I built some cabinets and furnishings, some bathroom fixtures in my house doing a renovation. But in about 2011, I ran across a software called SketchUp. Sorry about that. Called SketchUp, which is a 3D modeling. And I know any makers on this in this call, they know exactly what that is. For people who are not, this is a software that allows you to actually design in 3D. And in this case, I've actually wrapped the wood on the surface of this box that I was designing. And this is the first box that I made after I designed in SketchUp. I made about maybe 14 or 15 of these, but it took me a long time to do it because I still was not, there are things that you're always learning in woodworking, how to do things more efficiently and quicker and safely. And it was taking me a while. So I was like, I got to figure out how to do these faster, you know, because my intent was actually to sell these at some point, but I had hashed out all of the design, and I figured that, you know, maybe I could talk to somebody else about doing this, some people who knew more about this than I did, to help me with me figuring out how to make these faster. So anyway, I ran across a woodworker from Hollywood, Florida, Don Boudreau, and I saw him on the internet. He had a website, and he had some beautiful boxes. And he was at the Asylum Arts Festival, and he had a booth there. So I decided to go up because I wanted to meet him. And I went to his booth, and I announced myself, hey, how you doing, Don Boudreau? And he looked at me like, I kind of said it like I knew him. So I think he was a little startled. But so we got to talking. I told him that I was a woodworker, and I showed him some pictures of my boxes. But the boxes that I showed him were actually all of these 3D renderings. So when he looked at them, he kind of looked at me and said, "So you're a virtual woodworker?" And I said, "No, I'm actually a real woodworker." And I took out some more pictures and showed him the boxes that I had made. So from that point, making contact with him, he asked me if I wanted to actually come to a South Florida Woodworking Guild meeting, which I wasn't aware that that was a guild in South Florida. And, you know, I've lived here most of my life. So it was really nice to actually go there and meet other woodworkers. And 3 years later, Don was on the board at that time. And 3 years later, I was actually on the board and spending a lot of time at Don's shop. He had a 1,000 square foot shop in Southwest Ranches, which is not far out. I'm sorry, did I lose? Am I still,
Yep,
is my desktop still sharing?
Yep, we can see your first sketch up.
Okay, great. Okay, so Don, I spent a lot of time at his shop, and you know, I was learning a lot from him too. I was learning about, you know, making sled to cut 45 miters, making a sled to do 90-degree cuts. You know, learning a lot about exotic woods that I've heard before is Cote, Bacote. You know, I'd seen curly maple and zebra and wingay, but you know, like snakewood. It was like some really exotic stuff that he was building his boxes with. So I was getting a lesson in wood and in learning skills that I hadn't seen before, and seeing tools too, the way that he did things. So I hang my hat on design. That's what I am. I'm a designer, and I'm a woodworker after that, because I always start with design first. And so I wanted to design something at that point, because I hadn't really done a whole lot after that, this first keepsake box that I did. So I wanted to come up with something that was kind of unique, and I did. And the way that I design is that I don't compromise when I design. I look at something and I want to make it beautiful. After I figure out, and I hash out all of the scenarios in SketchUp. I don't usually do that in the shop, because by the time I get to the shop, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And you know, a lot of woodworkers don't work that way. Sometimes they'll go into the shop and they'll start with an idea, and if it doesn't work that way, then they'll modify it, and then they'll end up with something different maybe than what they started with, but that's okay. That's a process that some people go through. But my design process is I do sketches, I go to SketchUp, and then when I'm done with SketchUp, then the piece that I'm gonna make in the shop is gonna look pretty much exactly like what I finished in SketchUp, unless something stops me. But if there's either an issue about a tool or how do I get something done, I don't stop in SketchUp there. I figure out how to do that, and then I move on. So this next box, I'm sorry. So this is the actual box of the image that I just showed you. And it looks very similar, as you can see, in the same woods and the way that it looks. Now, after this box, this is the next box that I made. This is what I call the Cove Box. It's a keepsake box. It has a lift lid top on it. The thing that's kind of unique about this, or the challenge of making this box, that the top of the box is wider than the bottom of the box, you know. And for the woodworkers that are out there, there's a couple of ways to approach this, but repeatability is what, you know, I'm looking for, because I want to make more than one of these. And I want to do it so that when I make the second and the third and the fourth, they're going to look exactly like the first. So I had to figure out a way to do this so that I can repeat it every time. And, you know, I talked about doing on the bandsaw. Don and I kind of discussed it, you know, an approach to actually building it. And I kind of ran some scenarios by him. And we decided like a couple of those wouldn't work, you know, either doing you know, cutting the pattern, the sides on the bandsaw, but that would be hit or miss. It wouldn't be consistent. And then I came up with the idea. I sat on it for a couple of days, and then I came up with the idea, okay, I think I can cut this on a Cove a Cove jig on the table saw. And I hadn't used a Cove cutting jig before, but I've seen it done, you know, on YouTube and on videos and television. But I thought I could do it. So I built the jig and I actually did the sides on the box and it came out perfect. So we did this in the shop, and Don and I made, you know, a few of these. So he was, you know, he kind of suggested a lot of times at the guild, we would bring in, or we would bring in other woodworkers from out of town, and then they would present, you know, and we would, you know, those would be workshops. So as a group, he suggested that maybe we invite the South Florida Woodworking Guild members a chance to come over, and we would do a build off. And the build off is then, you know, we get a whole bunch of people together and we make the same thing. So this was a opportunity for them to come over. You know, they could, you know, build this box. And we had, I think it may have been 11 or 12 people, including Don and I, who came over. So prior to that, I had to do course outlines. We had to do like a worksheet and, you know, do all the steps. I did some drawings and plans for us to follow. So it was a 2-day build off, and it went off very successful. I think everybody was happy with the box when they left. And this is what the box looks like. This one is curly maple, wingate. It's curly maple band at the bottom, and zebra wood on the bottom as well. That top, the top is basically bowed, and it has a slit going through it, which makes the handle. So I had to make a jig for that, and as well. So there's probably there's 2 jigs in this box and making this box. So from that, you know, I guess maybe after we did that build off, Don asked me a question. He said, look, he said, Milton, you know, would you be interested in teaching classes at my shop on weekends with me? And I thought about it for a bit. You know, I had never taught before, and that wasn't something that was on my radar. I was kind of focusing on making more boxes, but I thought it was a great opportunity. And, you know, working with him, he had a lot of tools, and I'm glad I did, because that was the day that the South Florida Woodworking School was born. So we did weekend classes there for about 3 years. And we'd only have, maybe the space was big enough for, generally we had about maybe 6, 7 people. But later on, we started getting some big classes, like 9 people. We did Introduction to Woodworking, which was cutting boards and bread knives. We did box making 101, which is 2 boxes, a lift lid and a T box. And then we had, this box was advanced box making class that we taught. So we would have people come over, and you know, it was 2 days, all the classes were 2 days, and it was very successful. I met a lot of people. It was very interesting, people from all backgrounds, you know, people who just wanted to make things. You know, they had seen on television, they had seen, you know, on YouTube. It was some people that were experts on YouTube, but had never been in a shop. And, you know, just seeing the excitement that they had when they made something was really worth a lot of, you know, teaching. So that went on for 3 years. We had our last class in 2020 in January, about a year ago, maybe a little less, you know, a little more than a year ago. And this was our last class. So for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but we had, it was almost all women. So it was and I think one of the ladies brought her son, who was in the back, and another lady brought her daughter. So it was a daughter and it was a mom and daughter and a mom and son. And Dro is fellow in the back with the glasses on and the goatee. And Josh, who's another teacher, was there with us. He's waving his hands back. So from this point in my life, I after I made that Cove cutting box, I my problem is that a lot of times I don't want to make the same thing over. I want to improve it or make it a little more interesting. And that's sort of a curse because it's hard for me to make the same thing over and over. But at the same time, I was really thinking about, how could I change my work to represent me or put a part of me into it. And, I have always been, I have African, masks and carvings, and I've always been inspired by, African design. I'm always really looking at African themes in clothes and, and patterns and carving. So it's sort of a part of me. And I was trying, how can I incorporate this in my work? So I went back to my Cove Box and I decided that I was going to change it. And this is the result of that. This is the first African themed box that I did. And it's based on that Cove Box. It's a little more complicated because of the, okay. Visible? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my internet is kind of going in and out. So this box is Wingay. The patterns in the side, that required me to actually slice wood in those patterns and alternate it. So I had the brown wood, which is, I'm still, this is one wood that I'm not completely sure what it is. Don said it's maybe bobinga, but this is brown, and bobinga is usually pink, but it has the same texture of bobinga. So we're gonna call it bobinga. I had two boards that I laminated together. I put these patterns on it. I sliced them in half, and then I reassembled them in opposites. So, and then glued them back together. And then I made it a blank with this glue up. And then I made the box from that. Now, all of the studs on the top, that's a design element. It's not functional, but it adds to some of the studs that you see in African patterns. A lot of times you'll see these studs on scarification, which, you see Africans that use scarification as an art form on their skin. You'll see some of this in those photographs. If you've ever seen those, you'll know. And then the pattern around the bottom is basically based on some mud cloth. And this was the first one of many. So inspiration, like I said, a lot of inspiration comes from Africa. And every time I decide that I want to approach another box, I have a Pinterest account where I have a board, and the board is full of African sculpture, design, metalwork, fabric, kuba cloth, you name it, whatever it is, and I kind of surf through it, just getting inspiration from it. So my next project was going to be a jewelry box. And this jewelry box, I had it in my head. I had drawn on my small sketch pad, which is where I start first. And I had seen these stools before, and they're just beautiful. Yes, they're very minimal, the bowed seat. These are from the Ivory Coast. Generally these are, personal items. Generally people who have them, they use them and they don't let anybody else sit on them. Their women use them to bathe in. So these are, a Sanufu stool, and you've seen them probably. The image is so, modern, but it's something that's very striking. So from this idea, I moved to my next box, which was what I titled Sanufu Box. So if you look at the bottom of this, the base on this box is bowed like the Sanufu stool, and the legs are tapered. I have them pointing out, but this was my inspiration for this box. I like curves. The top on the box is also curved. It's a design element that I use on a lot of my boxes. Now, this theme that I have with the alternating patterns in the bottom of the box, in this case is wingate, walnut, and this is the same thing that I did on the previous box where I did two pieces of wood together. I sliced them apart and then re-glued them together with opposites. And to do that, I had to go into SketchUp. This box was done completely in SketchUp. So when I sliced them apart, I had to take into account the curve between all of the slices. So this edge would end without a piece going across it, because that would, in my opinion, change the design. So it was successful in that. But I had two blanks from this same setup. So I made two of these boxes, and this Sanufu, the top pattern of this box, which has a panel that's been laminated with veneer that I cut. That veneer was based on this Kuba cloth, which is a cloth that's made from raffia. It's Central Africa. I mean, you can find a lot of patterns that you'll see Kuba cloth in. And when I saw this piece, I was searching through the internet on Pinterest, and I thought, man, that's beautiful. I have to figure out a way to incorporate that in a box. And I thought about it for a while. I love the pattern. I went into SketchUp and I kind of drew out the way that I wanted to look on the panel on the top. So I started putting together veneers. And I had done veneering before, but I hadn't done anything this complicated. So each piece of these were sliced. And then there's on the back of it, you can't see it now, but there's paper tape that actually puts the entire thing together. But you have to tape it on the front first and then glue it on the back. So this entire piece right here, I mean, it's not that big, but it took me 2 days to do that. And the end result is the panel on the top of the box. So this panel is the top panel of the first Sanufu box. So after I did this is my first big jewelry box. Actually, the first jewelry box African theme. I had made a smaller one a long time before this. This was the first one. It has the curved top. And if you look at the very top of this, the thing that's different than most panels is that it usually the rails and stiles, this piece here and this piece and that piece are all the same thickness. Look at these, this is wider than that. So generally on a frame, it would be 45 degrees at these, but this is 52 and 38 degrees. And they also bow, so they land on a plane. I don't have a picture to show you exactly how it looks, but the top of those bow on both sides. So next, I wanted to make another box because I had a separate blank that I had made from the first one on the side. So I was looking at patterns and cloth, and I ran across this one, and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. It's not that complicated because the last one I did was super complicated. But I took this pattern, and then that was the inspiration for this top. This is a Sanufu box. This is wingate, curly maple, and zebra wood. This panel was, but I did have to develop another method to actually slice these pieces. So even though the other one was thin veneer, this is basically me putting wood together and slicing them on the bandsaw and salami, so to speak, and then putting them back together and making basically this image that you see, this panel, and gluing it to a substrate. And that was the first time I had done that. So this is the Sinufu box number 2. If you noticed here, you can see that this edge here on the previous one, it ended in wingate, which is a wood. This one ends in walnut. This is the opposite of the previous one.
Milton, I'm going to just flag. We have a few more minutes.
Okay.
I know you have a lot more boxes to show, so
Okay.
pick maybe one more to show and talk a little bit about, and then I've got some questions here in the chat box that people wanted to ask you.
All right. So I'll just swing through these real quick. My Impala box was the second jewelry box design that I get, and this was inspired by the antlers on the Impala, beautiful animal. These are turn legs. I learned to turn at Don Boudreau's shop. A couple of people there, Lee Sky, Don Boudreau, Impala box. Another Impala box inspired by these fabrics here. The top panel. This is a Shante stool from Ghana. And this is the inspiration for my keepsake box. So the handle on the keepsake box is similar to that, has the oval with the center on it. And I did quite a few of these. This is more similar to a scarification. This is a box that I did back in the summer during the quarantine. And this was I think this is the one that you actually saw and that you contacted me. So I did a little research about the Afro pick. The one that I was familiar with was the one on the far right with that power sign, because when I was in high school, I had a big fro, and that was the one that I carried in my back pocket. But the one on the far left, that is 5,500 comb from Egypt. So Africa has been using these combs, and they use them a lot for, they have utilitarian purpose, but they also tell a story, and all of the handles generally have a story that you know, when you have it, it tells you something about you, you know, where you're from, your spiritual affiliation, a lot of things. The one in the center is basically a fertility symbol from Africa. So these are the drawings that I did when I was thinking about this, and I had done these sketches for them a while back, but I had the time during the pandemic, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna either fail at this or I'm gonna make it. And I did a SketchUp drawing, 3D rendering. This is very close to the final product, which is this. These are the ones that I finally got to make. And these are, I'm very happy with the outcome on these. This is our last project that I've done, which is a traveling humidor. And it seats 3 cigars, 48 ring, and same thing, the patterns around the side I did on my bandsaw. And I think this is me in my shop.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Milton. The chat is full of people just saying how beautiful your work is, and how stunning it is. And I have to agree there. The connection and meaning and story that comes through your work is just so incredible and so stunning. We're so delighted to be featuring you tonight. So we have a few more minutes. I know folks, we want to, you know, kind of keep this to, you know, an hour of inspiration. We have a couple questions here. So I have a couple for you, Milton. So often when we think about artists, we think about them as sort of these introspective, perhaps even quiet individuals. I don't know if that totally describes you, but you know, you mentioned both with this last piece as well as you had stopped teaching just prior to the pandemic. How has sort of this disconnect from your normal routine really impacted your work, how you think, how you create. And can you talk about any positives that may have come from sort of being separated from those normal routines and the busy world that we used to live in?
Yeah. Yeah. I to answer your first question, I am a little quiet and introspective, but you know, I put it all together today to share my work. But the disconnect is, you know, it definitely has changed me, the way, you know, that I approach, you know, work. I definitely miss being in front of people, you know, and teaching. You know, that's something that I think everybody had to get adjusted to, you know. And in terms of, you know, my work, it gave me more focus. You know, there was things that I wanted to do while I was working, but did not have time. And, you know, there was always something in the way to stopping me from, you know, either hashing out an idea or, you know, a lot of times at least when I make things, I have an idea and I'll go out and, you know, I don't know if it's going to work. So a lot of times developing an idea takes a lot of time, you know, and, you know, that will stop you from actually doing a project if you don't have the time. So I think with this, I've been able to hash out a lot of things that I would not have done, you know, if I had been doing I may have done it, but it'd been a lot longer from now. So it's given me focus there. But the downside is that, you know, the camaraderie, you know, being around people and sharing ideas in person and, you know, just experiencing that part of I'm sorry, I'm having a issue on my computer. That part has been definitely challenging. But I think coming out of this, I'm going to have a lot more work. I've been doing things now that I would not have done before, you know, in terms of, you know, getting, having followers, you know, that's something that, you know, a lot more than I had before, you know, because I was focusing on more of the work and the people that I was meeting in person. Now, I think a lot of it now is coming through some of the social media, you know.
So another question I have in the chat here is, do you do commissions? And it sounds like someone is particularly interested in sort of funerary urn pieces, perhaps that connection there. If that's something you do, is that something you would consider? And also, where can we go to purchase any of your work?
I have been guilty of not selling boxes. But I am, yes, I do not have a website. That's being worked on right now. So I'm working on putting that together. But there are pieces on my Instagram account. If anybody's interested in that, you can take a look at it and inbox me, and I can give you prices on that. Or I can give you another way to contact me. If you're on Facebook, Milton Mizell, you can contact me through there, or I can give you my email as well. Now,
also, Milton was featured in Popular Woodworking. I'm going to include that link in the chat for people to see. I'm trying to see if I can drop in your Instagram here. Let's see if it comes up quickly for me. I'm not seeing it immediately, so people will probably need to search for that. Does anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up tonight's inspiration series?
Oh, just doubting.
Anyone? All right. Well, on behalf of Artisans Asylum, we are so grateful to have Milton here speaking tonight. It's phenomenal to hear about sort of your process, your ability to take something and that vision and that design, put it into a system, really work through all of the details, and then the thought and process that really went into creating the pieces is just phenomenal, Milton, really, truly. The meaning that sort of comes through on your work is definitely just truly inspiring. Is there anything you would want to share with any of the people here on our call about sort of your last few words about your work, or sort of your inspiration, or where they should go for inspiration?
Yeah. Well, I think, just a note on inspiration, we have to find inspiration, in other people too. If somebody compliments, me about anything that I do, that inspires me, and vice versa. I'll see people doing amazing things on either Instagram or wherever. No matter what it is, you have to support them and let them know that what they're doing is something that's creative and they should keep doing it, And as far as, me, what I want to say to people that have, given me compliments and talked about my work, I really appreciate it, Every time I hear something about my work, it makes me feel like, the things that I'm doing really matter, people appreciate it, So I thank you all for that.
Sorry, it looks like we didn't give an opportunity for you to answer about commissioned pieces. Do you want to say a few words there?
I am open to commission pieces. So you'd have to get in contact with me, and then we'd have to talk about, what project it is. I am right now in the middle of a few things. We have a workshop that's coming up with Artisan Asylum, so I'll be on that, getting prepared for that for the next couple of weeks. But after that, I should be open. So, but whoever is interested can contact me now, and then we can talk about it. So yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining for this hour of inspiration. We're delighted to be able to bring people together for this.